Imagine waking up in a country where saving money is a mistake, where being paid on Friday means you must run to the store by noon, not to buy luxuries, but to avoid losing purchasing power by Monday. Prices don't rise every year, not every month, but every single day. This isn't a failed state. This isn't a war zone. This happened inside one of the largest economies on Earth, Brazil. And for more than a decade, money there didn't slowly lose value. It stopped working in real time. A crisis that didn't crash, it accelerated. Brazil's hyperinflation didn't arrive as a shock. There was no single collapse, no dramatic overnight failure. Instead, control eroded gradually. Small decisions compounded. Temporary fixes became permanent habits. By the time inflation dominated daily life, the system was already too fast to stop. The growth that built the trap. In the late 1960s and 1970s, Brazil was growing fast. Under a military government, the country pushed industrialization aggressively. Highways, dams, factories, cities expanding at scale. Economic growth surged into double digits. The world called it the Brazilian economic miracle. But the miracle depended on one thing: cheap foreign debt. As long as global interest rates stayed low, the strategy worked. Then the late 1970s changed everything. Oil shocks hit. Inflation spread globally, and interest rates in the United States surged. Brazil's debt didn't just grow more expensive. It became unsustainable. At that point, the government faced a choice: cut spending sharply and absorb political and social pain, or finance deficits by creating money. They chose the second option. Inflation becomes policy. At first, inflation rose steadily. Uncomfortable, but familiar. 10%, 20%, 50%. Then it crossed the line. Instead of stopping it, Brazil adapted. Indexation, stabilizing the wrong thing. Brazil introduced universal indexation. Wages adjusted automatically. Rents followed inflation indexes. Contracts updated themselves. It was meant to protect incomes. What it actually did was remove resistance. Inflation stopped being an emergency. It became infrastructure. Prices rose not because costs had changed, but because the system expected them to. The government printed money to meet indexed obligations. Businesses raised prices in anticipation. Inflation no longer needed momentum. It had a mechanism. When time turns hostile, by the mid-1980s, inflation wasn't measured annually. It was measured monthly, then weekly, then daily. Money stopped functioning as storage. Payday became a sprint. People left banks and went straight to stores, converting cash into anything tangible before prices adjusted again. Supermarkets assigned employees to relabel prices all day. Restaurants abandoned printed menus. Some stores changed prices multiple times in one afternoon. Holding cash wasn't conservative. It was destructive. The economy didn't reward saving or productivity. It rewarded speed and anticipation. The currency carousel. As inflation accelerated, the government tried to reset confidence, not by stopping money creation, but by changing the currency. Cruzeiro, Cruzado, Cruzado Novo, back to Cruzeiro, then Cruzeiro Real. Each reform removed zeros. Each promised stability. None changed behavior. Renaming money didn't restore trust. It just simplified arithmetic briefly. By 1989, inflation exceeded 1,700% per year. By 1993, it approached 2,500% annually. At its peak, inflation ran close to 80% per month. Money wasn't losing value slowly. It was collapsing as a measure of time. Daily life inside hyperinflation. Hyperinflation doesn't feel theoretical. It breaks planning. Long-term contracts become meaningless. Pensions collapse. The middle class thins out. Those with access to indexed assets or foreign currency protect themselves. Everyone else absorbs the loss. Inequality widens. not because wages fall, but because delay becomes expensive. A distorted economy takes shape. Speculation became safer than production. Financial timing outperformed building real businesses. Inflation stops being a statistic. It becomes routine behavior. The illusion of control. Governments attempted to impose order. Price freezes. Wage controls. Emergency plans. The most famous, the Cruzado Plan, froze prices nationwide. Inflation halted instantly. Public support surged. Confidence returned, briefly. Then goods disappeared. Businesses couldn't adjust prices as costs rose, so supply collapsed. Black markets formed. Shortages spread. The freeze didn't eliminate inflation. It compressed it. When controls failed, inflation resumed at higher speed. The core problem remained untouched. Money creation never stopped. Systemic paralysis. By the early 1990s, Brazil's economy was locked. Indexation ensured inflation would persist even if conditions improved. Contracts assumed instability. Behavior reinforced expectation. The system had inertia. Brazil didn't just need a new currency. It needed to change how people thought about value. The real plan. In 1994, Brazil tried a different approach. Instead of another rushed reform, economists introduced a transition. First came a virtual unit of account, the URV. Prices and salaries were displayed in URV, stable and predictable, while payments still used the inflating currency. People began thinking in stability before stability officially existed. Only after expectations shifted did Brazil introduce a new currency, the real. This time, it came with constraints. Tight control of money supply, high interest rates, fiscal discipline, international credibility. For the first time in years, inflation lost its fuel. Prices stabilized. Trust returned. For a brief period, something symbolic happened. 1 real equaled $1. Not as a miracle, but as an anchor, a signal that instability was no longer the default. That parity didn't last. It couldn't, but the credibility did. The cost of stability. Brazil defeated hyperinflation, but it didn't erase the memory. Savings were gone. Businesses had failed. Planning had been punished for years. The country internalized fear. Inflation control became non-negotiable. High interest rates became normal. Caution replaced optimism. Brazil didn't just stabilize money. It built defenses against ever losing control again. The lesson. Brazil's hyperinflation shows how economies fail without collapsing. Control doesn't vanish overnight. It erodes through shortcuts, habits, and delayed consequences. Money only works because people believe it will work tomorrow. Once that belief breaks, systems don't crash. They accelerate. Brazil survived because it eventually chose credibility over denial. And because when money stops working, society feels it long before the numbers do. If you want more deep dives like this, watch what comes next and like and subscribe.